Hello guys, welcome to another video. Now the 3.26 Merciless Gauntlet event is well underway, and I thought it would be interesting to take a look at how the meta is shaping up for this race, especially considering that this is the first Gauntlet in almost a year following a long break with no PoE 1 updates, and on top of that, this is the first ever Gauntlet without the base Ascendancies. Instead, you can only choose Freesia Ascendancies, which has changed up the meta drastically. There's a lot of interesting builds developing as the event progresses, but before we get into that, let's quickly go over the Gauntlet event and discuss the differences compared to the base league. If you're not familiar with the Gauntlet, it's essentially part of Exile on hard mode. It's an event ran in hardcore solo self-found, so you cannot trade, and if you die, you lose your character. There are modifiers which make the monsters stronger based on the zone level. This results in a much harder campaign with a slightly more difficult Atlas mapping phase where you can gear up, and then a much more difficult bossing phase at the end. In addition to the monster modifiers attached to the zones, there are also specific changes to boss mechanics. For example, Brutus in Act 1 has the Hydra cannons present in the arena, whilst the Act 9 Trinity boss has the Maven Brain circling around the arena using various abilities. Now the Gauntlet is a points-based race. This means that points are required for completing various tasks, such as slaying Ubasirus, or completing the hidden Maven invitation whilst Release All is rolled on the invite. Now importantly, the Gauntlet also is a class race, so each class has a prize for the highest scoring player of that class, and there's also overall first and second place prizes. But the class race promotes class and build diversity, especially interesting due to the Freesia Ascendancies in this particular Gauntlet, which means that we'll get to see a lot of new builds being developed just for this event. So let's take a look at some of those builds for the top 3 classes in the Merciless Gauntlet so far. Now the most popular class is the Marauder by a huge margin due to the Ancestral Commander Ascendancy. This is Khan's current character, which is a fairly standard Earthshatter slam setup. Now the Ancestral Commander has exceptionally powerful defensive nodes, such as +3 to maximum endurance charges, or a literal Defiance of Destiny, making it perfect in the harsh conditions that the Gauntlet presents. But the Ancestral Commander also has a notable that drastically improves Warcry cooldown recovery rate, and this makes for a very good replacement of the Berserker's double Warcry Exert node, making the Ancestral Commander a great option for slam builds, which happen to be very strong right now in the current patch. This not only allows intimidating Cry to have a higher uptime of double damage exerted attacks, but it also means that your Warcries are going off more often, so you have more consistent triggering of Earthshatter's shard explosions. The Ancestral Commander gets a total of 9 maximum endurance charges, 3 baseline, 3 from the passive skill tree, and 3 from the Ascendancy, and combined with a respectable amount of armor and maximum elemental resistance scaling, this makes the build quite durable, especially for mapping and farming up, which appears to be the strategy for some of the top racers. For example, Ben farmed on an Ancestral Commander Slammer, but has since respec'd into an Antiquarian Chaos Inoculation setup, investing heavily into energy shield scaling and putting that energy shield to use offensively via Ephemeral Edge. This setup completely ignores the ward modifier on Exhibit 377, and is pathing straight through this node to reach the notable behind that provides 100% increased global defenses. The small nodes on the Antiquarian Ascendancy also provide 10% increased global defenses each. Combined with the Rune Graph for a further 40%, that's a total 180% increased global defenses, providing massive scaling for Energy Shield. Ben's build is currently set up using Smite of Divine Judgment, so not too far off what you may see on a typical Trickster in the base league. However, something interesting to note is the use of the Ghost Dance Keystone in Ben's current setup. The Trickster's Overleech is not available, so instead, by keeping evasion just below maximum energy shield, this means that energy shield cannot reach maximum and therefore leech is not removed, providing a pseudo overleech effect for energy shield somewhat similar to Trickster. Now I believe Ben intends to do bossing on this setup very soon, possibly waiting to see if he can loot an energy shield Light of Meaning first. Now, the second most played class in the Gauntlet is surprisingly the Shadow, with the Servant of Arakali being a popular choice due to several well-performing poison builds, including Poisonous Concoction of Bouncing. But the current Shadow leader is Aeroplane, who's playing a Poison SRS build. This particular setup makes use of the Servant of Arakali's Skin Crawler's Notable combined with crafted Abyss Jewels to reach 100% minion poison chance. Meanwhile, a free reservation level 15 Envy combined with an added Chaos Damage gem provides the base damage for the applied poisons. Now you'll notice that this build is much weaker defensively than the Ancestral Commander, but notably some of the defense power isn't visible here in the POB stats. That's because aspects of Spider's Webs will not only make enemies take increased damage, but they'll also make them deal 15% reduced damage. Aeroplane also has a considerable investment into block, almost reaching the cap on both spell and attack block, but spell suppression is lacking due to pathing directly to the left of the tree. Now the third most played class is the Duelist with the Paladin. Now the Paladin is an interesting one. There are a few Bammer setups and some Slam setups here as well, but you'll notice that most of these characters do not have a main damage skill. And that's because they're playing support builds that enable their mercenary to do most of the damage. The current points leader for the Duelist is Jung Roan. The Paladin has a unique setup that aligns perfectly with the addition of mercenaries for this Gauntlet, with a variety of ways to buff the Merc. This includes infinite power Warcries and Taunt, increased Flask effect and flasks applying to linked targets, and boosted aura effects while you have a linked target. Now, Purity of Elements provides elemental ailment immunity for you and your mercenary, but it also provides a lot of bonus resistances, allowing for a bit more freedom in terms of gearing for both you and your mercenary. But the most important part of this type of build is of course the mercenary itself, and finding the right mercenary with the right skills and support links in the Gauntlet no less is no easy task. However, a lot of the damage that mercenary is dealing is coming from support skills from the Paladin. First, Flame Link, which provides flat fire damage and a bunch of extra flat fire damage based on your maximum life, and this build has quite a lot of maximum life scaling. But perhaps more importantly than that is Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage, the setup here in the March of the Legion booze. Jung Roan currently has a level 27 Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage, providing an absolutely ridiculous amount of flat damage once those mines are laid down, perfect for bossing. The Paladin is also able to keep up a lot of powerful defensive buffs on themselves and the mercenary with 100% uptime, including a huge amount of life regeneration from Enduring Cry and maximum resistance scaling from Ancestral Cry. Now, in the next couple of days, it looks like we're going to see some of the first attempts at Uber bosses by the top racers in the event, but some of the weaker classes will continue to farm out gear for several days just yet, and I plan to cover some of the other builds for those classes in a future video. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure you stick around for more of the same. I hope you guys are enjoying watching the Gauntlet action, and if you're playing in the Gauntlet, let me know what level you've reached and which build you're playing by commenting below. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.